Welcome to the Let's Play Board Game Edition Goblins vs. Zombies review. So the first thing I want to say about Goblins vs. Zombies is that despite the really cute art that is on the cards, this is not a game for kids. This is actually aimed at more hardcore players. It's a very difficult game. So this is, I know it looks cute, you might say, oh, my kids are going to love that. It's not really aimed at kids, it's aimed at like the 15 or older crowd, because it's a very difficult game. So I just wanted to get that off right off the bat. So as I said, there are many different ways to play Goblins vs. Zombies. Actually, there are 5. One of them is solo only. 2 of them are co-op or solo, depending on how you want to play it. And then 2 of them are competitive, where you need at least 2 players that will be facing against each other. And I have to say, probably this game, because of its difficulty and just the way it is in general, it probably works best as a solo game. That's how I prefer to play it. I'll talk about the reasons why later. Followed by the co-op modes. I like the co-op modes, the ones that go against each other. Not the co-op modes, the versus modes are really nice. I like them, they work out pretty well. The co-op modes are probably my least favorite. I know he put in things trying to make it a co-op game, trying to make you work together. But I don't think it really felt cohesive and really didn't quite work out, so I don't really recommend it as a co-op game. But the other modes, solo, it works great. I love it as a solo game. And the competitive modes, I really enjoy those as well. But the co-op mode just doesn't quite do it for me. So the first mode I want to talk about is called The Last Stand. That's the solo-only mode. Basically, it's you against the game. That's probably my favorite version of the game. It is also by far the most difficult version of the game. As the creator says himself, that it was meant to be difficult. You're not supposed to win very often. I haven't gotten all the way completing the mode. I've never actually beaten it, per se. He has a whole grading system of how well you can do, keep track of that. Instead, so scores, because it's so difficult. I know at the time of the game that I was given the game, the creator has only beaten it twice out of the, I don't know how many hundreds of times he's played. So it's difficult, but it's fun. It's challenging. It is luck based. I mean, it's a high skill, high luck game, so there's a lot of luck to it, but there's also a lot of skill, and I do enjoy it. The competitive modes I like a lot. They're kind of fun. They're kind of screw your opponents over by getting the... you have to kill your zombies in a specific order to screw over how they're going to have to fight the zombies. And it's some strategy, it's some planning, but it's also some luck. And I enjoy that. I have fun with that. It seems a little... basically, there are a couple tipping points, and it's whether or not you can handle the tipping point when it comes up. It's planning for the tipping point and then handling it, and whoever can handle it the best usually ends up winning. And that's in the survival mode. The Goblins vs. Zombies mode, where it's one person plays a goblin, one person plays a zombie. That mode's I like a little less, because the goblin player has a lot of fun. I mean, you're playing a full game, it's very exciting. The zombie player, on the other hand, is kind of playing half a game, because his only real option is how many cards he's going to draw versus how many zombies he's going to play, and what he's going to play. The goblin player makes all the other decisions in the game, but the game lasts 5-10 minutes tops, so you switch back and forth. It's really not that big of a deal. You switch enough that it doesn't matter all that much. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the co-op modes. Now, I know he tried to work and make it a co-op game, but didn't quite work out. It's really like 2 to 3 other players playing separate games, and either you all win or you all lose, because if one person fails, you're all out. There's not a lot of player interaction. What he tried to do is you can give other players cards by discarding 2 cards from your hand. And so you're losing 3 cards to give another player 1 card. And I've never been in a situation where I just had cards to throw away. It is such a tight game, so strategic, so tight that you don't have cards to throw away like that. So, I mean, while it's there in the game, it never gets used. I've never seen a situation where I could give away 3 cards and still survive the next couple turns. It doesn't happen. Also, the bosses, the boss mode, they have special boss goblins, which are really cool. The two are pretty good. The dwarves, the one where everyone spawns a dwarf zombie, like a heroic dwarf zombie, and then everyone has to fight their own. It's still separate, but everyone has something to do. The elf boss, where it just doesn't take damage. It just affects everyone, and you have to survive X number of turns, and then you win. That one's not so bad because it affects everyone equally. My only problem is with the paladin boss monster. He's only in one field. Only one player can attack him. I mean, technically there is another goblin that can attack into someone else's field, but that's one card in a 50, 60 card deck that can do it, and it's really not a card that's not all that useful otherwise. So really, if the boss shows up, and one person, it depends on one person whether or not you can win the game. So I'm not a big fan of that boss. The other two are pretty good. I enjoy those. But in solo mode, as I usually play those games, it's fine. I mean, I'm only one person anyway. It doesn't really matter. And it's a lot of fun. It's a difficult mode. I mean, I win the normal mode, the normal boss mode, like 50, 60% of the time, and the heroic boss mode, maybe 25% of the time I win. So it's really difficult. It's really challenging. If you're looking for a challenge game, this does a great job at a challenge solo game. So now I want to talk about the balance. I think pretty much all of the cards in the entire game are pretty well balanced. I mean, certain goblins are better in certain situations. Certain zombies are harder when you don't have the right cards to deal with. But there's really only one card that I really have a problem with. I think that is really broken and really not... I wish it was done differently. I like the idea, but in practicality it didn't work out that well. And that's the Jester Zombie. Because of how he works, pretty much, if he comes up in a solo game, you're screwed. Because he moves twice. He's a fast zombie, so he moves twice. He doesn't actually attack you, but he creates a whole lot of zombies instead. He'll create 2. I mean, if he's not slowed, he creates 2 zombies, and when you kill him, he goes back into your graveyard area and can still attack that turn. I talked to the designer of the game. It was meant to be that way, and he has 3 health. So basically, either you kill him every single turn, or you get 2 zombies. And that's not really possible. I mean, when he comes up, you're going to get overwhelmed. It's just how many turns you're going to survive till game over. Within the elf boss, it might not matter if he comes up late enough. But in Last Stand, the solo player survival mode, if he comes up anywhere other than the end of the game, you're not going to make it that much farther. And that's the problem there. And then on the other hand, when you're playing the survival mode, the player versus player mode, he's useless. Because almost useless, because so few times do cards actually go into the zombie discard pile. So basically, he'll sit in front of someone's yard and he'll back up, but there's no cards in the discard pile, so he does nothing. So either he's way too powerful in a solo game, or he's absolutely useless in a co-op mode. And so basically, it's the only card I really have a problem balance-wise. Other than that, I think the others are done really well. I like the ninjas. They're invisible, but they don't actually enter. They just, they assassinate and then they become a basic zombie, and then you can deal with them. And that's not so bad. There's only one flying zombie that, it just flies straight in. I think it's the sorcerer zombie. But you have 3 turns to deal with him, and then he goes away. He doesn't keep coming back and back and back and back. So, the Jester Zombie is really the only card that I have a problem with. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the packaging. I don't usually talk about packaging for games, because usually it's just a solid box. There's not much to talk about. My problem with this is it's a paper box. I know they were going for cheap. It's a cheap game. It's not expensive. But, anyone who's played Magic the Gathering, you had those fat booster boxes, the 75 card packs, those boxes wear very quickly. So if you can't really travel with this game in this box, you're gonna have to get a separate box for it. What I would love to see is to sell in a deluxe edition or maybe an add-on or something else on the site. One of those like Magic the Gathering deck boxes that is just Goblins versus Zombies. That would be a really cool thing. I think it would be nice. My other problem with this box, all the cards when it comes in it fit great. But as soon as you cut up the card for the tokens, you put the tokens in the bag, and they no longer fit in the box comfortably. You're stretching out the box, you're wearing it down more, cutting the half-life of this box. If they were going to do this, if they're going to go with this, I think they need a little bit bigger box just so that you can fit everything in it comfortably rather than having it stretch out and have an already fragile box be under stress as you're traveling. But I understand what they went with. I mean, it's a cheaper game. So I understand why they went with paper, but I would like to see that option available. I understand, if I want a cheap game, I can get a cheap game, but I would have probably splurged 10, 15 bucks and gotten the hard box just so that I could travel around with it better. Well, that's all for my review. Please remember to share, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my rules and playthrough videos.